Israel's existence, when everybody in the region was trying to destroy us, Iran was Israel's best friend. We had close government relations. The Iranian people loved the Jews, loved Israel. They supplied all of Israel's energy. There were business ties. There were strategic ties. They loved Israel. We were their best friends. Then in 1979, a new leader came in, a religious fundamentalist leader, and literally in a nanosecond, he said, okay, now our first priority is destroying Israel and killing all the Jews. Nothing had changed in Israel's essence or its behavior. And there were no issues, and there are no issues between Iran and Israel. The leader first, the former leader of Iran wanted to be friendly with us. We were best friends. The next leader wanted to destroy us, and now they're trying to kill us. And the same thing has happened the opposite way with the Arab Muslim countries. First they wanted to destroy us, and now they've come to terms with us. Now the one exception to that is the leadership of the Palestinian people, who still believe that it's possible to destroy Israel. And so they're willing to pay any price to accomplish that objective, and they make their people pay a horrible price. And whatever we think of the failed decision-making of the Palestinians throughout their history, one should not for a minute fail to empathize with the suffering of the Palestinian people as a result of their leaders' mistakes. They pay a horrible price. Now, it's a price that many of them, unfortunately, are willing to pay, but that shouldn't stop us from empathizing with their suffering. And the Palestinian leadership and the majority of the Palestinian people continue to believe that the destruction of Israel is more important than realizing their national objectives. Because after all, Israel was the first country that accepted the existence of a Palestinian state 61 years ago. Israel was the very first country. If what the Palestinians wanted was just a state living beside Israel, they could have had it. We would be celebrating with them their 61st anniversary of independence. Or during the 20 years when Jordan and Egypt controlled the territory which will now form a Palestinian state. You need to ask Israel. And there was not a single Palestinian leader during that time who said, you know what, we should have a Palestinian state. The objective was always taking away the Jewish state. And even today, Israel is in the absurd situation of wanting there to be a Palestinian state more than the Palestinian leadership and the Palestinian people themselves want to. And we shouldn't have any illusions about, it's just the leadership and the average Palestinian wants to live in peace with us. Last Purim, when a school bus driver went into a religious high school near the central bus station and killed 8 people your age and younger who were davening, who were praying, Palestinian public opinion research polls, it was a massacre. Palestinian public opinion research polls showed that over 90% of the Palestinian people thought that was a wonderful thing.
What percentage?
Over 90%. 87% thought it was wonderful, another 5% thought it was wonderful unless it brought a very strong Israeli reaction back. And that's work done by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Khalil Shkaki, who studied public opinion research at MIT and was a professor of public opinion research in Florida. And he's probably unlikely to try to play with the figures to portray the Palestinians in a particular way or not, because he and his brother are the founders of a terrorist organization called Islamic Jihad, which has killed hundreds of Jews. So he's a pretty credible source on Palestinian public research, public opinion. And I don't want to get into this too much, but I had an example last year with a close friend of mine. I have many, many friends from the Palestinian territories and in government, colleagues and friends. There's one gentleman that I've known for more than 20 years. He's been a minister in several Palestinian governments. He's been the Palestinian National Security Advisor. He has his own army. And I've been to his house in Ramallah many, many times. He's been to my house. Our children are friends. I have a son who's now 7.5. He has a son who's a year older, and they play together. And about a year ago, he was over for lunch, and our 2 wives are close friends. He was over for lunch, and after lunch, he and I were sitting on the back porch drinking coffee, and our kids were playing in the backyard. And I said to him, we all know what the end looks like. It's 2 states for 2 people, Palestinian state living beside Israel in peace. What can we do to create reconciliation between the 2 people? And he turned to me and he said, what are you talking about? And I live inside the Green Line. I live inside the pre-1967 borders. He said, this is my house. Where you and your family live, this is my house. You took it by force. You stole it from me. And right now, you're too strong for me to take it back. But hopefully, my son will be strong enough to come and kill you and your family and take our house back. And if not him, then his son. What are you talking about reconciliation? You stole my house by force and we will take it back. So, is no split between what the majority of the Palestinian people want and the policies their leaders are pursuing, which is not a state living beside Israel. It's a state which will be used as a base to further their objective of destroying Israel. And they say it very openly. A month ago, the Palestinian Authority ambassador to Lebanon said very openly, we're pursuing a policy of violence, of resistance, together with diplomatic moves. And now we have a president who's furthering our agenda. And it's worked. We've gotten the world to the point, and Israel to the point, where they've accepted that we will have a state while we're continuing to take active steps to destroy their state. And things are going actually quite well for them. They're quite happy with the progress. Now, there's currently a dispute between the government of Israel and the government of the United States about what do you do. And the dispute doesn't come from the end of, what does it look like at the end? Because both we and the United States want there to be a viable, successful, economically viable Palestinian state. It's in our interest. We want to have a good, peaceful, stable neighbor beside us. But we say to the Palestinians and to the United States, look, you guys have received more money per capita since you set up your government in 1993. I assume most people here were born after, no, when were most of you born? 1991. Okay. So you're about the same age as the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian state. They've received, think about it, mountains and mountains of $100 bills, more aid than anybody else in the world. And they haven't done anything to develop their economy. They haven't opened a single business. They haven't paved a mile of road. They haven't opened a single technology school. And we beg them. We say, look, we will help you. Israel set up 24 joint economic zones, which supplied tens of thousands of jobs to Palestinian citizens, and was going to train them in modern skills and modern technology, because that's the engine that drives the Israeli economy, technology. We said, if it worked for us, maybe it'll work for you. We know how to do this. And 4 times we built them, and 4 times the Palestinian government burned them down. And we say to them, build up your economy. If you want dignity and independence, that comes from getting up in the morning and going to work. It doesn't come from getting the world to give you charity decade after decade. And so our argument with the United States is not what the end looks like, because we all agree, but how do you get there? Our fear is that not just this president, but also the former president, and also the one before that, and also the one before that, see the Palestinian issue as something they need to put a check mark. Okay, Palestinian state, check. Now we can move on to the more important issues. And we say to them, no, if you set up a Palestinian state which doesn't work, you won't be able to put a V beside Palestinian state and move on to the more important issues. It won't create peace and stability in the Middle East, and it'll create a whole host of new problems. And in the Israeli intelligence community, we've increasingly come to see terrorism as a strategic issue. Terrorism against Israel has always existed. Long before Israel was in the West Bank, long before there were settlements, long before there was a security fence. All of those started 2 decades after the formal terrorism started. And of course, the terrorism started as soon as Jews started to express any desire for self-determination in their own land. So there's always been terrorism. But the terrorism has a different effect now. You guys went to Sderot, right? Okay, now I don't know what the numbers they gave you are, but on the day that Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip 4 years ago, there were 24,000 people living in Sderot. And now, in practical terms, somewhere between a third and a half the people have left. Why? Because somewhere around the 5,000th missile hitting your town, people say, you know what, this isn't as much fun as I thought it would be. And they leave. Unfortunately, they move to Ashkelon. And now the Palestinians have rockets that can hit Ashkelon, so they move to Beersheba, thinking that is far away. And now the Palestinians have rockets that can hit Beersheba. The Palestinians understand that it is possible to put enough focused violence to threaten the civilian population that they will run away. As much as you love your home, as much as you love your country, at some point, you don't want to live like that. You don't want to expose your kids to that. You were in Sderot. I don't know if you had a chance to talk to kids. There are kids who are afraid to go to school. There are kids who are afraid to go to the toilet in case the missile comes, because, siren goes, you have 15 seconds. Now, this has strategic implications for all of Israel because, for example, last summer, the Parents Association of Sderot